Ideology. 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 So, you want to know more about ideology? Well, let's break it down. Ideology is a noun, which means it's a person, place, thing, or idea. In common usage, ideology refers to a set of principles and ideas that guide how someone thinks about the world and makes decisions. It can be related to politics, philosophy, or even just personal opinions on things like equality, freedom, or social justice. For example, you might say, she has a strong ideology when it comes to environmental issues. In this case, her set of principles and ideas is clear, and she's not afraid to stand up for them. One special note about ideology is that it can sometimes be used in a slightly negative way, implying that someone's views are rigid or inflexible. For instance, you might say, he has a very rigid ideology when it comes to economics, which suggests that his ideas aren't open to change or compromise. Here are 3 practical example sentences using the word ideology with different contexts. In a formal setting such as a university lecture, you might say, the professor's ideology on economic equality had a significant impact on her research in sociology. In this context, the use of ideology implies a comprehensive and systematic set of beliefs that shape one's approach to understanding and addressing social issues. In a casual conversation between friends discussing politics, you might say, I'm not sure I agree with your ideology on taxation. It seems like you're putting too much burden on the middle class. Here, the use of ideology is more conversational and implies a set of beliefs that are somewhat rigid or inflexible. In a business context such as a company's annual report, you might say, the company's ideology emphasizes innovation and customer centricity, which has led to its market-leading position in the industry. In this case, the use of ideology is more strategic and implies a set of values that guide the organization's decision-making and overall approach to business. So, you want to know about this thing that influences people's thoughts and actions, right? Well, let me explain. A particular perspective or set of principles that guides how people think, feel, and behave towards certain issues or groups is what I'm talking about. This way of thinking often shapes their values, goals, and decisions, making it a kind of operating system for their lives. People who hold this perspective might be more likely to see the world in a certain way, support specific policies, or even identify themselves with particular groups or movements. It's not just about ideas, but also how those ideas affect people's actions and relationships with others. Infer. 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 So, let's talk about the word infer as a part of speech. It's a verb, which means it expresses an action or a state of being. Now, when you say someone infers something, they're making a logical conclusion based on what they've observed or been told. This is usually done without being directly told. So in common usage, infer often implies that someone has drawn a conclusion from the information available to them. For example, I think it's going to rain tomorrow because of all the dark clouds I see in the sky. Here, you're making an educated guess based on what you've observed, which is exactly what infer means. One special note about its usage: infer and imply are often confused with each other, but they have slightly different meanings. When someone implies something, they suggest it indirectly, whereas if you infer something, you make a conclusion from the information given to you. Here are 3 practical example sentences using the word infer with their respective contexts. In a formal lecture setting, you might say, based on the data we've collected, it can be inferred that the new marketing strategy has had a significant impact on sales figures. Here, the context is an academic or professional presentation where you're expected to provide evidence-based conclusions. In this case, using infer shows that you're making a reasonable and well-supported conclusion from the data. In a casual conversation with friends, you might say, I think I can infer that John isn't feeling too great today, he's been avoiding us all morning. Here, the context is a social interaction where you're observing someone's behavior and drawing a conclusion based on that observation. Using infer in this case implies that you're making an educated guess rather than stating a fact outright. In a business meeting, you might say, it can be inferred from the client's recent purchases that they have plans to expand their operations. We should review our sales projections accordingly. In this context, using infer shows that you're making a business decision based on observations and data. It implies that you've taken into account various factors and are drawing a reasonable conclusion about what the client might do next. So you want to know about infer, right? Well, when we say that someone can infer something from a situation or text, we mean they can figure out an idea or conclusion based on clues and hints that are given. It's like solving a little puzzle. The main characteristic of inferring is that it involves making an educated guess or prediction about what might be true, based on the information you have available to you. It's not the same as just knowing something for sure, it's more like using your critical thinking skills to make a smart guess. You'll also hear people talk about related concepts like deduce and imply, which are similar ideas, but with slightly different connotations. For example, if someone says, I implied that, they usually mean they meant to suggest something, but didn't explicitly say it. So, when you're inferring, you're using your brain to connect the dots and make sense of what's going on, and that's a super useful skill in all sorts of situations. Innovate. 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 Let's dive into the meaning of innovate. The word innovate is a verb, which means it ends in ate, indicating that you're doing something. Its primary part of speech is to describe an action. Now, when we talk about innovation, we usually think of something new being created. And that's exactly what innovate means. It can be used in common usage like this. The company innovated a new product line last quarter, which led to a significant increase in sales. As you can see, it's often paired with other verbs like create, invent, or develop. One special note about its usage is that while many people use the words innovate and improve interchangeably, they actually have slightly different meanings. Improve implies making something better using existing technology or methods, whereas innovate suggests introducing new ideas, processes, or products altogether. Here are 3 practical example sentences using the word innovate, along with context explanations. At the university, Dr. Thompson emphasized the importance of innovating new teaching methods to keep up with the rapidly changing educational landscape, saying, "We need to innovate our curriculum to make it more engaging and relevant for today's students." This formal usage shows how the word innovate can be used in an academic setting to convey a sense of experimentation and improvement. In contrast, during a casual conversation at a coffee shop, Alex mentioned to his friend Ben that he was trying to innovate new recipes for his food truck, saying, "I've been experimenting with some crazy flavors, think kimchi grilled cheese and spicy." Tuna tacos. I want to innovate the menu so we can stand out from the competition. This usage is more casual and conversational, highlighting Alex's creative approach to innovation. In a business meeting, CEO Jane proposed a new initiative to innovate the company's software development process by adopting AI-driven tools, saying, "By innovating our workflow, we'll be able to deliver projects faster and with higher quality. It's a game changer for our industry." This usage is more formal and professional, demonstrating how innovation can drive business growth and success. So you're trying to figure out what innovate means. Okay, let me break it down for you. To put it simply, innovate is about making something new and better by using fresh ideas, techniques, or technology. It's like taking a step forward from the ordinary way things are done. Mainly, it involves finding creative solutions to problems or improving existing products, services, or processes. Think of it as bringing something new into an existing situation to make it more effective, efficient, or exciting. Some people also use words like improve, update, or modernize to describe similar concepts. But innovate specifically implies a sense of breaking new ground and pushing boundaries.